going on, everybody? Jonathan Lay here with JW Lee Photography, and today I'm going to be doing a quick little rundown and review of a couple L bracket systems for the Nikon Z9. The Nikon Z9 I just picked up back in, I believe, March. So I've only had it for a few months now, but it has quickly become my daily driver. I use it in the majority of my photography. I have the Z7 II here that I'm recording with. I also have the Z6 II that is with my daughter on a cross-country trip right now. I kind of loaned that to her so she could get out there and take some pictures as well. So as far as L brackets go, L brackets one of those things where you'll probably go a really long time before you end up getting one. And when you finally do get one, you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on one because it's not one of those sexy camera items that people like to spend a lot of money on. And I totally understand that. I was the same way. I purchased my very first L bracket just last year, and it was for the Nikon Z7. I think I got it in October of last year, and it just so happened to be a three-legged thing L bracket. Now, anybody that knows anything about three-legged thing is they make super high quality products and very good looking products as well. And they're a little bit more pricey than some of the other ones that are out there on the market, but a lot of the times when it comes to photography, you get what you pay for. And I'd heard a lot of good things about the three-legged thing L brackets. So I figured, what the heck, I'll give it a shot. Try it out, and if I like it, cool. If not, I'll just I'll send it back and I'll start looking elsewhere. So I got my L bracket for my Z7 II, and I absolutely loved it. I got it in orange. It looks really good contrasting against the black camera there. It is super lightweight, and the functionality of it is absolutely top-notch. I couldn't have asked for a better L bracket. As a matter of fact, most of the people that have seen the L bracket that I have on my Z7 II, when they see that compared to some of the other L brackets they may have, they end up jumping right on and grabbing the three-legged thing L bracket as well. Like I said, it works really well. It does exactly what you want it to do. Now, I picked up the Nikon Z9, like I said, back in March, and since then, I've been absolutely in love with this camera. Now, one thing that I will tell you about the Z9 is this thing it's chunky, right? It's not like most of the mirrorless cameras that we see today, you know, with your Sony A7s and your Canon R mirrorless systems, and a lot of your Fuji systems as well. They're very small, they're very light cameras, right? So you don't have to have some type of big, you know, robust apparatus to be able to mount to those type of cameras and worry about having any kind of flex or anything like that. They're really light. As a matter of fact, I think I looked it up last night. The Z7 is 1.2 pounds and the Z9 is 5.2 pounds, right? So that's an additional 4 pounds of camera that you're dealing with. That's almost 3-4 times the weight of a Z7. So obviously, anybody who's going to make something for this camera, they should make something that can support the robust weight of it. So naturally, when it came time for me to find an L bracket for my Nikon Z9, the very first place that I looked was three-legged thing. And sadly, they weren't available yet. And after months and months and months of communicating back and forth with the three-legged thing team, they finally announced one last month. So up until that point, I went on Amazon and I found a good L bracket that would work with my Z9 and one that wouldn't break the bank either. And so I landed on this Leofoto L bracket right here. It's a one-piece construction, right? Which, when I say one piece, it's milled from one piece of aluminum, right? There's no seams, there's no screws, there's no brackets or anything like that. It's all one solid piece of aluminum, right? And it has a screw here on the bottom where you attach it to the camera, and then it also has another screw right here. That's your anti-rotation screw. That's extremely important, especially when dealing with a heavier camera, because if you have an L bracket that doesn't have a good anti-rotation, then when you mount it in that portrait orientation, if you have it set on your tripod here and locked down and you have your camera on there and you have a long lens, then everything's going to start to sag and tilt. Right, so you don't want that. That's why it's good to have a good anti-rotation screw on there. And I'll say that even though this thing wasn't super expensive, I've been pretty happy with it. So let me go ahead and mount this thing up to the Z9. and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right, so I got the Leofoto L Bracket mounted to my Z9, and one of the things that I immediately noticed was when shooting with it handheld in a portrait orientation, this L Bracket is extremely low profile. It kind of contours the bottom of the camera, and the Arca Swiss plate is very, very low profile. So even when hand holding it when I'm shooting events or when I'm shooting portraits and stuff like that, I didn't have to worry about taking my L Bracket on and off the camera because it's so low profile. I can still get a very good grip with the Z9 even when shooting in a portrait orientation. Now I'm 6 feet tall. My hands are a little bit larger than most, so your mileage may vary when it comes to something like this. But I will say I'm thoroughly pleased with the Leofoto L Bracket, how low profile it is. All right, so swinging it around to this side here, you can notice that it does have the, like I said, the Arca Swiss mounting area here, so that you can mount this in a portrait orientation, right? Now, here's the downside to it. If you look, there is a little bit of a flex there, right? It's not much, but it is noticeable, right? So where could this be a problem at? Well, for me, I do a lot of nighttime landscape photography. I do a lot of Milky Way stuff, a lot of astrophotography, different things like that. So anytime you're doing any kind of a long exposure and you've got something that's not perfectly locked down, the slightest little bit of movement can ruin your photo. If you're doing a 5, 7, 8 minute exposure and a gust of wind comes along or something like that, and you have a fairly heavy lens on the front of this camera, you can get just a little bit of wiggle, and it can be anywhere from barely noticeable to completely ruining your photo, depending on your focal length. Obviously, if you're shooting at a wider focal length, something like 14 millimeters, it may not be noticeable. It may be very, indiscernible in your final image. But if you're shooting with something that's a bit heavier, like a 70 to 200, and you're logged in all the way out there, and let's say you have a 2x teleconverter on there as well, you need every bit of sturdiness that you can possibly get out of your L Bracket. So I was a little bit discouraged to find out that there was some flex there, but I can say that after using this now for several months, I don't think there's been a situation where that L Bracket has caused me to get any type of blurry images. Okay, so one other thing that I absolutely love about the Leofoto system is, like I said, it's low profile, it hugs the bottom of the camera, and the anti-rotation pen that is in this is absolutely rock solid. There is zero, and I mean zero, not even a fraction of an inch amount of rotational give when it comes to this L Bracket. It's mounted to the bottom of this camera. It's metal to the rubberized grip, right? There's nothing in between there, and it is rock solid. Absolutely no rotation whatsoever. And lastly, one of the other things that I love about the Leofoto L Bracket is the fact that on the bottom here, you can see I have several different 1/4 screw holes. Now, I use this Z9 to do a lot of video. I do real estate video where I mount this camera to a DJI Ronin to get nice steady video footage when I'm walking through houses. And I love the fact that there are several different 1/4 screw holes on the bottom here that give me some mounting options when it comes to mounting this thing to a gimbal. Sometimes I'm running with the 14 to 24 that I'm recording with now. Sometimes I'm running with the 19mm tilt shift that has weird off-axis balance and stuff like that. So having multiple options to be able to mount this thing up is really, really good. So now let's move on to the three-legged thing L Bracket. And so what comes with it? First off, you get stickers. I mean, who doesn't love stickers? I've got one of the three-legged thing stickers here on my one of my bags here. Let's see. You get a little bag with some tools in it to be able to put your L Bracket on and adjust it. And you get a nice little swag bag here with the three-legged thing logo. It's nice and soft. I really like having these kind of bags. I tend to fill them up with various cables and just things that I don't want floating around inside of my camera bags. And then last but not least, the beautiful, beautiful Zaara L Bracket for the Nikon Z9. Now, I ended up getting this in the same kind of burnt orange color that I have my Z7 L Bracket in, and I absolutely love it. It's just, I don't know, there's something about it. Maybe it's because I'm a Gator fan. I like things that are orange. It really, really looks tremendous. It looks very well made. It is very, it's nice and light as well. Is it as light as the Leofoto? I'd say it's comparable. If it's not, it's within a couple ounces. It's not something that you're really going to notice. It has the mounting screw down here on the bottom. It has an anti-rotation nub that appears to be milled into the metal itself. When you rotate it around to the bottom here, it's quite a bit different than the Leofoto L Bracket. Now, if you'll notice on here, there is a seam, right? And that seam means that this is not a one-piece construction L Bracket, right? Which, depending on who you are and what you do with photography, this may or may not be a good or a bad thing. Now, depending on how it's milled and how these are made, it could be no big deal that it's a two-piece L Bracket. As long as everything fits together nice and tight, then that shouldn't be an issue. But it's an issue. And this is where things kind of started going south very quickly, with my opinion, on this three-legged thing L Bracket. As soon as I pulled it out of the box, I noticed that even before I mounted it up to the camera, when I grab it and move it back and forth like this, I can feel the give right here at the seam, just in my bare hands alone. That's already a bad sign. So I went through and I double checked to make sure that all of the screws are tightened down on here, that what they essentially do is allow the vertical side of this L Bracket to slide in and out so that you have greater access to the hookups on the side for cables to be run to it for external video recording or for some type of a external battery source or something like that. And to be honest, I don't think it's necessary at all. Like I said, the Leofoto here is a solid one-piece construction, and like I said, I use this to shoot video with. I access the external ports here on the side of the camera all the time with this one-piece construction L Bracket, and I never have any issues hooking anything up. Now, obviously, if you have something plugged in there with a one-piece L Bracket, you can't then mount it to your tripod because your cables are going to hit. So yeah, that could be an issue, and that could be a reason why you may want an L Bracket. This is a two-piece like this that can mount to the tripod and then space your camera out away from here so you have room for your cables to run through. But I feel like that is a very small use case scenario. You're aiming this product at a very, very small fraction of the amount of people that are going to be shooting with a Z9 and that want a good dedicated L Bracket. So if that's for you, if that's what you do, if you do a lot of portrait orientation video and you need your cables to be able to run through while it's mounted up like this, then this L Bracket is going to work for you. And you probably won't have the problems that I foresee having with this. So with that being said, let me go ahead and take and mount this thing up, and I'll show you where the other set of problems kind of run in here. All right, so we've got the three-legged thing L Bracket mounted to the Z9 now. And as you can see, it fits on here just fine. They did make a nice notch on the top cut out so that you can have your camera strap holder still on there, which I really like because, as you can see, I'm also a big fan of the Peak Design stuff. I have the Peak Design nubs on here so that I can run my Peak Design straps. There is a 1/4 hole up here as well where you can run an accessory. It has the Arca Swiss style brackets here on your vertical side. And then when you swing it over to the bottom, you have your Arca Swiss style bracket on the bottom, as well as a single 1/4 right here on the bottom. So this is one of the first problems I noticed. There's a single quarter 20 on the bottom here, which means if I'm mounting this to any other type of accessory, that's the only mounting option that I have. Unlike the Leofoto where I showed you, I have multiple, so I can set this thing for the right kind of balance that I need. So that's one drawback. The other drawback is this thing sticks out from the camera considerably more than the Leofoto. Right? Remember I said the Leofoto is kind of curved and it matches the bottom of the Z9. The three-legged thing L bracket is not curved and it does not match the bottom of the Z9, and it sticks out away from the body of the camera, I would say at least twice as much as the Leofoto does. So it makes holding it in your hand not near as comfortable as the Leofoto. Can you do it? Absolutely. Somebody with larger hands like myself, I can do it, but I just don't feel like I have as confident of a grip with this mounted to the camera as I do with the Leofoto. What's next, right? I noticed also that this thing has rotation to it, right? So with this mounted to the camera, before I even mounted it up to a tripod, I can notice that the anti-rotation nub that's on the bottom, that, like I said, is milled into the solid piece here on the bottom, it's too small, right? There's a bit of a gap there, and that gap allows this bracket to rotate on the bottom of the camera. That's bad all the way around, no matter how you look at it. And the sad part about that is, since it's milled into the metal on the bracket, there's no way to adjust that. There's no way to compensate for that. It's there and it is what it is. So if you don't mind your camera rotating around like this, then I guess that's not a big problem. For me, that is a big problem. When I mount something to my camera like this, for the purposes of mounting it to a tripod, I mount my camera to a tripod so that it stays still, right? I don't want to mount my camera to my tripod and still have it moving. Now you can notice I've got a nice big sturdy tripod here. I also have a very small tripod that I do a lot of travel stuff with. This is what I use. This is my workhorse here. This is the Benro Mach 3, big, sturdy, heavy carbon fiber tripod with a geared head, right? So everything I do is all locked down nice and sturdy. And look at that camera. It's twisting and rotating, and I don't even have a lens on it. So that's a big drawback. And then lastly, the biggest drawback of them all, the thing that I noticed before I even mounted it to a tripod, the very first thing that I looked at and that I was concerned with about this being a two-piece construction is, how well is this thing going to hold in a portrait orientation? And you can see with one finger, I'm able to make that L bracket flex tremendously. Right now, I don't care what kind of lens you got on there. I don't care if it's an 8mm or an 800mm. That kind of flex is going to show up in your photos absolutely 100% anytime this camera gets the slightest bit of a movement. So you can see when I mount this in the portrait orientation, look at how much that camera moves on that L bracket. Now this thing is locked down steady on this tripod. This tripod isn't moving anywhere. And look at how much movement there is in that camera. That right there, I'm sorry, is absolutely 100% unacceptable. For the purposes of what I do my photography for, there's no way that I can make this work for me. So, sad to say, I'm going to be sending the Zaara back to three-legged thing. So at the end of the day, if you have a Z9 and you're looking for a decent L bracket, also one that's not going to break the bank, the Leofoto L bracket is a great option. Like I said, there is a little bit of a flex. There's a very little bit of a flex here on this side. Do I find it to be completely unacceptable? No. In most cases that I've used it in, I haven't had any issues with the little bit of flex that I notice in this there. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all. And again, I absolutely love the fact that it is super low profile because I do so many different types of photography. I mainly do residential real estate, so my camera is 90% of the time locked down on a tripod just like this. But I do a lot of wildlife photography. I do a lot of portrait photography. I do a lot of event photography as well. And I don't want to have to sit here and take this thing off and on every time I want to do some different type of photography. And I love the fact that with the Leofoto, they made it nice and low profile enough to where I can still handhold this thing and it is comfortable and I have a confident grip on the back of this camera. With three-legged thing, if they plan on keeping their design like this, they're absolutely going to need some type of additional mounting solution on the vertical side of the L bracket to keep this thing from flexing, because unfortunately, as absolutely beautiful of a product this is, in my use case, it's absolutely unacceptable and I can't use it. That sucks. So that's all I've got for you here today. I'll have some links in the description down below to all of these different items where you can see them on my Amazon page. And if you'd like to purchase anything, or if you have any questions about any of the gear that I shoot with or how I shoot with it, feel free to reach out to me. You guys take care and have a wonderful Christmas.